Oh, dude, got another story here. I have mentioned this in one of my previous videos before, and I said I'd probably do a story on it and talk about it. And I just happened to see quite a recent article on it, and it's about the girl from Blackpool who went missing. Charlene Downs, I think her name was. It'll be in the article anyway. She went missing. It was something like 2003 or 2004. She was about 14, 15. They never found a body, but they reckon that she was actually ground up and put into kebab meat. It is quite a crazy story, and I don't really blame the parents. A lot of people at the time blamed the parents for it, but this was at a time before grooming gangs were fully accepted by the mainstream. For people like myself who come from northern parts of England and where you have a lot of mixed towns, this kind of thing wasn't really surprising to a lot of us that this would happen, and that the grooming and rape of young girls was well known by a lot of us. But middle class, well-meaning people, they just saw working class people like myself who were talking about this as being racist and bigots. Unfortunately, history has proven those people wrong, although they are still incredibly reluctant to admit the truth for some weird reason. Hubris, I think, is the answer for that. So anyway, this is from last year, this article, so it's quite a recent article, but obviously the story is quite old. But I still think it's an incredibly important story, and more people need to be made aware of it, as not many people do know this story, which is quite sad, really, considering how extreme it is. People need to be made aware of this. Mum's torment, girl 14, was groomed, murdered and ground into kebab meat, but her family's nightmare isn't over. Heartbroken, Karen Downs' head span as she struggled to cope with the enormity of the words spoken in the crowded courtroom. Moments after hearing her 14-year-old daughter, Charlene, had most likely been murdered, cut up and ground into kebab meat, Karen fled, throwing up in a nearby toilet. I can't imagine what that woman was going through when she heard that in court for the first time. That must have been horrendous for her to have to hear that being spoken. And by the way, this isn't just this isn't like fat Baz down at the Dog and Duck going, "Oh, she's been ground up into kebab meat, effing this and effing that, these foreigners." This is the police seeing this as a serious theory in a murder, in a suspected murder. This isn't, they're not just going to say that in court on a whim. They have got to be absolutely almost certain. They may lack the evidence to fully prove it, but they've got to be almost certain that they are correct, that is the most credible reason for not being able to find her body. It was the first time I'd heard what might have happened to my daughter, and I felt disgusted and sick to the stomach, says Karen. Yeah, understatement of the century there, really, isn't it? As a fellow parent, I really can't imagine what she's going through there. Absolutely awful. How do you cope with hearing something like that? It has tormented me all these years, and I have to face the reality we might never find Charlene's body. Yep. And the thing is at the time this happened as well, like I say, loads of people were from what I can remember, were blaming the parents for allowing her to be groomed and, allowing her to go off, because Blackpool, unfortunately, is a very poor town. There's a lot of child delinquency there. Well, the problem is, and we saw this getting revealed with Rotherham, the BBC's did the I think it was called Three Girls. They did that show on it, and then they removed it because they felt it was radicalising people too much. But a big thing with that was that the police were actually arresting family members who were complaining to the police about this happening and trying to, threatening them with being racist and, stirring up racial hatred. So I've got a feeling that social services and the police may have been bullying the parents while she was being groomed. And we say groomed, I mean, she was being sexually abused and trafficked and pimped. She's a victim of rape. Grooming makes it sound like a lot less than what it actually is. It's disgusting. 20 years after Charlene vanished, desperate Karen is pinning her hopes that a crack team specialising in cold cases can finally uncover the truth about her daughter's killing. I hope they really do, Her daughter's vanished. Charlene disappeared into the bright lights of Blackpool on November 1st, 2003, never to be seen again. Cops believe the teenager was a victim of sexual exploitation, swapping sex for bags of chips after being groomed by a gang of mainly Asian men. Well, let's be honest, Pakistani, Bangladeshi Muslim men is most likely what it is. Unfortunately, this is very, very common in northern towns where these people have takeaways and they will use things like chips and pizzas and kebabs and things to entice young girls in. And they'll play them with alcohol and stuff to get them in, and then they'll start trading them to the cousins. And I'm not being stereotypical there. Most of these people are generally related to each other in these places, and they will usually be cousins to each other in one way or another. She made 13 visits to a sexual health clinic in the 2 years before she vanished. This is the weakness of the society that we live in. And this is what I keep saying. I know this is 20 years ago now. This has happened, but don't listen to what they say. Look at what they do. And for decades, these people have allowed these invaders to rape children in our country. That is not me being hyperbolous. I'm not over exaggerating the point. That is literally what they've been doing. And then they covered it up for decades. We even had Gordon Brown referring to a woman while he was out canvassing as that bigoted woman when she was mentioning concerns about immigration. And Gordon Brown's government referred to young girls like this as making informed lifestyle choices. That is what the Labour government at the time believed about the victims of these rape gangs, that those young girls were making informed lifestyle choices. Now let that sink in just for a moment. Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting, isn't it? That people could say that about these young girls who were being drugged and plied with alcohol, and beaten and pimped and trafficked and murdered and put into kebab meat. Apparently, according to Gordon Brown's government, that was a lifestyle choice of that young girl. Maddening, isn't it? That's what these people are doing to our country. That is what we have allowed these people to do to our country. It is shocking, isn't it? 2 men accused of killing Charlene were never convicted by a jury, which were unable to reach a verdict on their guilt. A retrial was ruled out amid concerns about evidence gathered by a Lancashire constabulary. Dr. Kirsty Bennett, a lecturer at Leeds Trinity University and an expert in cold cases, is leading a new team to try to discover what happened to Charlene. She's working with the family in the Justice for Charlene Downs campaign, which previously hired a private investigator to look at the case. Karen, 57, who still lives in Blackpool, knows it's the last throw of the dice. She said, "Not a day goes by that I don't think of my Charlene. I never sleep. I can't carry on with life. I'm still stuck on that day. Since she disappeared, I've had a candle burning in my window and it still burns today. I hope and pray for justice. The years go by and the pain doesn't get any easier at all. I need to know where she is." That is such a heartbreaking thing. She doesn't even have a grave to go visit, does she? For of a daughter. She has nothing. All she has is memories, and that is so sad for her. So sad. Cops believe Charlene was murdered within hours of disappearing in Blackpool city centre. Her murder uncovered a dark side of the faded seaside town after a police report revealed Charlene was one of 60 girls, some as young as 11, who had been groomed by takeaway workers. The girls were given food and cigarettes in exchange for sex acts. Yeah, absolutely standard practice, that. Absolutely standard practice with them. It's got a picture here showing the CCTV footage is still from it of the last time they were seen in the centre of Blackpool. And it was the Funny Boys takeaway where they disappeared. So avoid that place like the plague if it's still open. Detectives allege that Charlene has been strangled and dismembered and that her killers joked about having turned her flesh into kebab meat and her bones into tiling grout after she threatened to blow the whistle on them. In 2007, well, this is the thing as well. When people say they're going to kill you, listen to them. Absolutely listen to them. When these people say they hate you, listen to them. We hear about people from certain political bents. Listen to. I know I say don't listen to what they say. Look at what they do. But absolutely, when they're making jokes like that, very very serious things, you've got to listen to that. I know I'm being a bit hypocritical because I normally say don't listen to what they say. Look at what they do. But these people were. You take that into consideration as well. Look at what they were doing. These people were grooming children. These people were plying them with cigarettes and with alcohol and drugging them. So that's when you then start to listen to them as well. And this is where this is how it is a credible case that the police have, a credible theory, because they have proven that they are despicable individuals with their actions. And it leads you on to believe that actually they may very well have done what they've said they've done. And really, they should be pulling all the grout off the walls and they should be going through it with a fine-tooth comb to see if they can find traces of bones in there. In 2007, Ayad Al-Batiki, then 27, who ran the Funny Boys takeaway in Blackpool, was charged with Charlene's murder. His landlord and business partner, Mohammed Reveshi, was charged with helping him dispose of her body. They went to trial in May 2007 when the jury was played taped conversations in which it was alleged Ayad had joked that he killed the girl, that she was chopped up and her body had gone into the kebabs. The jury failed to reach a verdict and a retrial was also dropped after a police watchdog found the investigation by Lancashire Constabulary was handled unprofessionally and plagued with a catalogue of errors. Well, I mean, that's just standard for the police, really, just cocking these things up in these towns and these cities across the north of England. and allowing these people to get away with these crimes and murders for decades. It's almost like the police are involved with it sometimes when you think about this, without they've allowed children to be groomed and raped for decades and even gone as far as covering it up. And I think the only reason why they couldn't cover this up was because of how high profile it was at the time of this girl getting murdered. And if it wasn't for the fact that she had been murdered, I don't think they would have investigated them. Serious doubts were also uncovered over the way the transcripts were made. Both men were paid $250,000 each in compensation. One of the men's lawyers accused the police of incompetence, manipulation, and like that is just salt into wounds, isn't it? Absolute salt into wounds. They've got him on tape saying that they killed this girl and put her in kebab meat, and then they paid £250,000 each. Karen has been to hell and back since losing her daughter. Suspicion first fell on husband Bob, and as police searched the family home, they found counselling records of a woman called Martina Peters. When Karen asked ex-soldier Bob who the woman was, he admitted Martina was him, and he was undergoing counselling for transgender issues. Despite problems, the couple had stuck together, united in grief. Just before Christmas 2021, Charlene's younger brother, Robert, 30, died of an accidental drug overdose. That's very, very common in Blackpool, unfortunately, because of the debt. It's just a very, very economically deprived place. Unfortunately, it's a place where the most deprived people from other places get generally sent to Blackpool. So a lot of drug addicts and alcoholics and delinquents, councils that don't want to deal with them will send them to Blackpool or places like Blackpool, and they'll pay the council for the bed and board and things. But unfortunately, that drags the whole area down, and you just end up with a whole town full of alcoholics and drug addicts. Karen later said he never got over his sister's death, and that he used to climb out of his bedroom to look at for her in the early days. What's that? Just before... Oh, sorry, I've missed a little bit here. Just before Christmas 2021, Charlene's younger brother, Robert, 30, died of an accidental drugs overdose, heaping more pain on the family. Karen later said he never got over his sister's death. Yeah, sorry, that's me not understanding what's being said. And that he used to climb out of his bed and look for her in the early days. That is just absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. Sorry, that's me not understanding that. Just absolutely destroyed the entire family, hasn't it, this whole situation? I'm not surprised. Her disappearance cost his life. It also killed my mum. She couldn't cope with it. I hope they're all together in heaven. It's my only comfort, she said. I have 8 grandchildren now who bring me so much joy, yet I can't help thinking how happy I would be if Charlene had her own children and what she would be like. Life is always what if. Yeah, it is. It's just absolutely tragic, that. In November, to mark the 20th anniversary of Charlene's disappearance, Karen will lead a candlelit vigil outside the church where the teenager attended Sunday school. Just so sad, this story. She says she's lost faith in police ever finding out what happened to her daughter and hopes a new investigation will uncover fresh forensics. Unfortunately, I'm highly doubtful on that. I really am. I don't think that this case will ever get closed. It's just one of those tragic cases, really. And it's just complete and utter police incompetence by the sound of it as well. Karen said, I last spoke with the police in March this year. This is being last year. But it was the same update, no update. And it is so frustrating. I'm fed up with the police. I've lost all faith in them. There have been so many awful rumours about what happened to her. And as a mum, it is hard to take. I don't like the term cold case because to me the case has never been closed. So how can it be reopened? That is technically true anyway. They don't actually get closed. But they stop investigating and they put resources elsewhere. A man was arrested on suspicion of Charlene's murder in August 2017, but is now longer under suspicion, Lancashire police say. The force says £100,000... No, they've done that wrong. A £10,000 reward is still on offer for information leading to the conviction of Charlene's killer or the recovery of her body. Yeah, they put the comma in the wrong place, so it was 100 with 2 zeros after it. Should be 10, obviously, and 3 zeros. Yeah, just a terrible, terrible story, a terrible tragedy. As I say, it is a very old story now, 20 years old. A lot of people aren't aware of it. I do think it's worth bringing this up so people are aware of that this has been an incredibly long ongoing issue in our country. And things that people are aware of now is absolutely nothing new. And unfortunately, the police's incompetence in dealing with these things is also nothing new. I'll try and find some other articles about the police getting involved in various TV channels running shows and threatening them to shut them down because, the police weren't comfortable with these sorts of crimes getting highlighted. This is going back to like 2007 sort of time. So again, nothing new from the police trying to cover up all these sorts of crimes. If you found that informative or interesting, please like, subscribe, put a comment below. I'll speak to you all later. Bye.